Morning, Sophie. Welcome to this episode of John's Journal, and we are continuing in the adventures of Nicholas Cresswell. And, yesterday he was starting to have problems with people. They're in a situation where it's unknown dangers ahead, and some, known dangers and unknown dangers in this case. We've just moved from the Ohio River to the Kentucky River. And instead of going down the river, he's going to go up the river, which makes it much more difficult to move these canoes. So this is the second part of May 21st, 1775. Our company in great fear of Indians. Some of them insist on sleeping without a fire. After a long contest, it was agreed to put the fire out when we went to sleep, but I believe it was not done. Whatever my companions may be, I am not uneasy. I suppose it's because I don't know the danger of our situation. Rainy weather. Seems like it's always raining on them. Monday, May 22nd, 1775, the next day. Notwithstanding the danger of our situation last night, I slept sound and undisturbed, though some of the company were kept in perpetual alarm by the barking of the dogs, and their own fears. This morning held a council to consult our present safety, when after many pros and cons, it was determined to keep 2 men on each side of the river as scouts, the rest to work up the vessels and relieve each other by turns. It happens to be my turn to walk as scout, but I found it disagreeable clambering over gullies and wading amongst the weeds as high as my head in some places, and raining all forenoon. Saw several buffalo tracks and a flock of parakeets. Now, you don't see parakeets flying around in Kentucky now. At noon, went aboard, rode all night, find the current here pretty strong, camped on a hill in the beech thicket, all hands very tired and damned cross. One of the scouts killed a deer. And I'll stop here for just a second, back up, and make a quick note there at they were woken by the dogs. They are hunters, and by necessity, even if they're just going to take up land, they have to hunt to survive, and dogs are a main part of the equipage of that. So all this talk earlier, we would not have guessed, and in our mind's eye, I don't think we would have thought, well, they have to have dogs along with them. And as soon as I read something like that, it totally changes my picture. It's like backing the film up, and then it's like, okay, and now let's put dogs on the boats that go with these people. How does that work? Can you imagine? Sometimes when we travel, you'll go interstate travel, thousands of miles, people take their dogs with them. This seems like I don't think I'd take my dog on a canoe trip, but maybe I should. Tuesday, proceeded up the river, found several rapids, which obliged us to get out and haul our vessels up on ropes or with ropes. The current stronger than yesterday, saw several roads that cross the river, which they tell me are made by buffaloes going from one lick to another. These licks are brackish or salt springs, which the buffaloes are fond of. With hard labor, suppose we have come 20 miles today. No sign of Indians. Camped on a stony hill near a buffalo lick. Saw several of them. Killed 2 calves and a bull. Limestone impregnated with shells. Large beach bottoms. But our scouts inform me the land is better at a distance from the river. Believe George Rice does not intend to go down the Ohio, which will be a great disappointment to me. So he doesn't tell us exactly why he believes this, but maybe George Rice is talking about danger, or he wants to do something else. And, here he's made this, he can't go by himself. I don't think he's not savvy enough for that. Wednesday, May 24th, proceeded up the river, find the navigation worse, more rapids, strong current, surrounded 30 buffalo as they were crossing the river, shot 2 young heifers, and caught 2 calves alive. Their ears we marked and turned them out again. About noon, Captain Michael Cresswell met us, informed us that it was 100 miles to Harwood's Landing, the place our company intends to take up land. No danger of Indians. Captain Clark left us and went with Captain Cresswell. Clark always behaved very well while he stayed with us. So that's the end of our, Clark things. He was there. He left again. That's it. Other than him seeming to get along well with Clark, we don't hear about any of his ventures. Although, we did hear about Clark telling him about a particular herb and, explaining some things to it. So that was pretty interesting. Wednesday, May 24th. Land in general covered with beach, limestone and large flags, few riverlets empty into the river, and a few springs to be seen, which makes me suppose the country is badly watered. Camped at a place where the buffaloes crossed the river. In the night, were alarmed with a plunging in the river. In a little time, Mr. Johnson, who slept on board, called out for help. We ran to his assistance with our arms, and to our great mortification and surprise found one of our canoes that had all our flour on board sunk, and would have been inevitably lost had it not been fixed to the other. We immediately hauled our shattered vessel to the shore and landed our things, though greatly damaged. It was done by the buffaloes crossing the river from that side where the vessel was moored. Fortunately for Mr. Johnston, he slept in that canoe next to the shore, and the buffaloes jumped over him and into the other. It split it about 14 feet. Mr. Norse and Mr. Taylor's servants usually slept on board, but had by mistake brought their blankets on shore this evening and were too lazy to go on board again, or probably they would have been killed. May 25th. Repaired our vessel by putting in knees and caulking her with the bark of the white elm, pounded to a paste which is tough and glutinous, something like birdlime, and answers the purpose very well. Some of the company shot a buffalo bull, saw several cross the river while we were at work. 2 canoes full of men passed us down the river, going to Fort Pitt. Am convinced Rice will not go with me. Find he is a great coward. On inspection, find our flour is much damaged. Obliged to come to an allowance of a pint a man per day. Had we come to this resolution sooner, it would have been better. Great quarreling among the company. So it's gone from bad to worse in their situation. We hear about the herd of buffaloes basically, smashing one of their canoes. They are having to repair their canoe with what they can, and it talks about this elm paste. So you get to the inner bark of some kinds of elm, and it can be very gooey and, he says, glutinous. So Eric Vostine, who we have on the channel at times, he was talking about that. You can take it, chew it in your mouth, and it kind of gets like chewing gum or something, and you can stuff it in the cracks here of their canoe. And when they say put knees in, they put reinforcing wood in there to kind of hold it together, even though it's cracked. And now when the supplies are hit and the people are getting unhappy, they still have 100 miles to go. Probably, if he only made 20 miles, and as you go up the river, it probably gets worse, right? It's shallower and more rapids. So they're going to be going less than 20 miles a day. They still have a week to get to this place where they're trying to go, and they still have to get out again, right? At least Nicholas Cresswell does. So it's getting more and more complicated. If they're running out of supplies now, and he still wants to go from Harwood down the Ohio further and then go back up, what is he supposed to eat? I would be considering, thinking, I was like, okay, what's going on? What's the plan here? So there's the, one of the, we'll call it a naval disaster. Okay, a water disaster, boat disaster with Nicholas Cresswell. I thought I would touch on this book here. This is the narrative of Daniel Trabue, titled Westward into Kentucky. And Trabue's, the first half of the book is about his adventures supplying the army with rum during Revolution. This is later on. I think this is the 1780s, a little bit later on in the book, and he's talking about going and settling this Kentucky area. And I thought I would just pull this little bit. They're moving by boat. I don't think they have like river boats, and they also have canoes. But this is an area here that says, we apprehended very great danger from Indians. We moved the women and children in canoes immediately on in the island. We moved all our things also to the island, and that same night the other boats and us all encamped together. The next morning we went to our boat and took out, so they had a kind of a boat wreck. Their boat hit a rock and went sideways, and they lost a lot of their goods there. We took out all our iron things, and she then swum. So they lightened the boat so that it started to float again, but she was so much injured that we could not mend her. The owners of the other boats agreed with us that our horses and their horses should all be sent by land, and that we might then have room in their boats, and we did so. So they're carrying not just people and household goods, but horses in these river boats. And it's like, if we make the horses go on land, we'll have more room. We was 21 days on the river, 3 times as long as we expected. So our provisions was scarce. The writing here is just great. We can really get an idea about what their speech was like from this writing. Our provisions was scarce. We often went ashore with our canoes and killed turkeys. They were very plenty. It was thought there was a great danger of Indians, but necessity compelled us to go ashore and kill turkeys. Mr. Lockett and I killed turkeys for our families, and some of the others off their men killed for their families. We had a hearty laugh at one of Captain Watkins' men. Watkins, told his men they must eat turkeys and save the bread and bacon. And then the people were complaining that they didn't want to eat turkeys. They wanted to eat the bread and the bacon. So very interesting stories about what's going on with kind of getting into that interior, the difficulties, the dangers that they're running into. We don't see anybody killed, but everybody's worried about that. They're worried that they don't have enough food. They're worried that this super highway that they travel is not safe, right? Even the super highways we travel today aren't necessarily safe, but in this case, trebly more dangerous. There's always this danger of upsetting, and this time of year, especially when Nicholas Cresswell, the waters can run. You can have floods. You can all kinds of things can happen. Or, buffalo attack. I'm thankful I don't have to worry about giant herds of buffalo coming in smashing my things. Sometimes it seems like the turkeys might be like that right now, but and that's an interesting thing too. That for many years when I was growing up, white-tailed deer were kind of rare early on, and especially my father and my wife's my father-in-law. talked to, it was like, deer just were not a thing in this area. You just did not see them. And now we have, multitudes of deer, many, many deer. You'll see just herds of 20 and 30 deer wandering around. I see deer almost every day. And it wasn't until the last, say, 10, 15 years that turkeys have shown up in this area, when undoubtedly, turkeys were here in the past. So these things, now who knows, next up, buffalo. We're going to see buffalo wandering around. I wouldn't doubt it at some point. Or, brown bear or something like that, because all those things were here. They just, aren't here today. I want to thank you for coming along on this river adventure. We'll speed up a little bit, but it's so rich, this part of the journals. Some of the journals, they're just like dry reading, blah, blah, blah. He tells me about the weather, who cares, right? And you really got to pull out the detail and interpret it and really see the exciting things happening. But in Nicholas Cresswell, and then later on it'll get like that. When he gets back to civilization, it's like, I'm bored, I'm tired, I don't want to do, I'm not getting anything done, how do I get back to England? And, he complains like that for the whole last half of the book. There's not a lot of, super exciting things. But this part of the book, and his second adventure into the wilderness, is, very, very good reading. So, again, thank you for coming along. Thank you for being part of Townsends Plus, for the support that you give us in this way. That helps us continue to make all kinds of videos, whether it's here on Townsends Plus, or, in that fuzzy, weird realm that is YouTube. That is, what a fickle beast, let me tell you. It's such a fickle beast. Thank you so much. Hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.